If you're an American citizen as an adult, you have seen the United States repeatedly go to war. Anyone 18 or over has seen the United States involved in all sorts of war, and that's after the Iraq War, which is now 22 years ago. Essentially, if you're American, it means forever, for a long, long time, for many decades, that you are a citizen of a country that's always at war. And after World War II, there's a very visible and clear pattern, which is that the US government convinces its citizens, enough of them, to support the war at the beginning. They deluge them with war propaganda, which is extremely strong, primal, tribal, and enough Americans initially support the war to let the US government politically go and drop bombs or finance some other country to go drop bombs for it. And then after 6 months or a year or 2 years or 4 years, polls show that Americans overwhelmingly oppose that war that they were convinced in the beginning to support. Going back to the war in Vietnam, all throughout the 1980s, wars in the war on terror in Afghanistan and Iraq, in Syria and Libya, the financing of the war in Ukraine, Israel's destruction of Gaza, bombing Yemen, and now this new war that the United States is becoming increasingly involved in lots of different ways. And we're only on the fifth day or the fifth day. And you just see so many Americans on a dime. The minute a new war is presented to them, with whatever pretext can be conjured, even if they're exactly the same pretext that most Americans lived through watching, proved to be complete lies the last time it was used in 2003, even though it's exactly the same script, exactly the same pretext, coming from exactly the same people. You can get enough Americans to immediately stand up and start cheering for death and destruction and bombing. Not all, a very substantial minority oppose it. I think if the U.S. overtly gets even more involved in the war in Iran, obviously anything resembling ground troops entering Iran, but even perhaps prolonged bombing of Iran as well through U.S. jets and bombs, as President Trump has indicated and Israel has demanded, maybe some of that will erode, that support will erode. But all that's needed is enough support at the beginning of the war to let the government start it. And once the U.S. government enters a war, it doesn't matter anymore whether the people continue to support it. Then it's just already done. And all the normal arguments are assembled about why we can't stop, why we can't cut and run, why that would be appeasement, et cetera, et cetera. All the same scripts all the time, used over and over. And even though they get proven to be discredited or unpersuasive or full of lies, you just use the same ones each time. And that's how the United States stays as a country at war. Now, we've been hearing a lot of people saying, look, I'm happy that Israel is bombing Iran as long as the U.S. has no involvement in the war. It's not our war. We don't enter it. We don't have to pay for it. As long as it's not our war, I'm fine with it. But of course, the entire U.S. military, Israeli military rather, is funded by American taxpayers. Every time Israel has a new war, the arms that it uses, the weapons that it uses, comes from the United States, transferred to Israel. We pay for their wars, we arm their wars, we support diplomatically those wars, and we use our military assets every single time, and our intelligence apparatus, to support, enable the war, as the United States is already doing. We already have multiple new U.S. Military assets ordered to the region by President Trump. They're already active in protecting Israel from retaliation. And here from Axios on June 14th, nothing is never enough for Israel. They want more. Israel urges the U.S. to join the war with Iran to eliminate the nuclear program. Quote, Israel has asked the Trump administration over the past 48 hours to join the war with Iran in order to eliminate its nuclear program, according to Israeli officials. The big picture, Israel lacks the bunker buster bombs and large bomber aircraft needed to destroy Iran's Fordo uranium enrichment site, which is built into a mountain and deep underground. The U.S. has both with flying distance of Iran. But the Trump administration has so far distanced itself from Israel's operation and argued that it would be illegitimate for Iran to retaliate by striking U.S. targets. Directly attacking Iran, even if the U.S.'s involvement is limited to bombing a single site, would pull the U.S. directly into the war. Behind the scenes, an Israeli official claimed to Axios that the U.S. might join the operation and that President Trump even suggested that he do so if necessary in a recent conversation with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Note that was on Saturday. President Trump has openly said that he is considering the possibility of involving the U.S. even more directly in this war with Iran. Here from ABC News, this was on Sunday, this was yesterday. Trump says, quote, it's possible U.S. gets involved in Israel-Iran conflict. Quote, in an interview with ABC News' Rachel Scott, Trump declined to comment on whether Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a personal plea for the U.S. to get more involved. Quote, we're not involved in it. It's possible we could get involved, but we are not at this moment involved, the president said. Now, that all depends on what you mean by involved. We're paying for the war. We're arming the war. We've deployed military assets that are actively now trying to shoot down missiles coming from Iran as retaliation for the Israelis launching a completely unprovoked attack on Iran, based on the claim that Iran was about to get nuclear weapons just weeks away, something they've been saying for 30 years, as we've shown you many times. Same thing that was said in 2002. Here is Trump today. This is just about 30 minutes ago. He issued this decree on True Social, quote, Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame and waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. So let's just look at that last part, because obviously that's quite a statement to make. Just to be clear, when we say everyone should, when he says everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran, notice he's not saying political leaders or military command or the Iranian military or the Revolutionary Guard. He's saying everyone, every living person in Tehran should immediately evacuate the city. That follows a similar instruction that emanated from the government of Israel earlier today. You're talking about 14, depending on how you count, 10 million people in the city, 14 or 16 million people in the area of what would be considered Tehran. Why should 16 million people evacuate Iran? What is Israel and the United States planning on doing to Tehran that would require 16 million people at 2 a.m. to immediately evacuate? Aren't we just constantly being told that what makes Israel morally superior? I mean, I've heard this 1,000 times from senators and members of Congress in both political parties, is that unlike Tehran, unlike Iran, which randomly bombs Israel, purposely kills civilians, the Israelis are excruciatingly careful never to hurt a single hair on a civilian's head. And if they do, they're so sorry for it. Even though the entire world has spent 20 months watching and is still spending the 21st month watching Israel on a daily basis, blowing up children into a million pieces, extinguishing entire families, bombing refugees in tents, and deliberately imposing starvation on Israel, even though we've watched them all with our own eyes do that for close to 2 years, something the U.S. has also paid for and armed. They have the audacity to say that what makes Israel morally superior is that they don't target civilians. Huge numbers of Iranian civilians have been killed just in the last 4 days alone, whereas a handful of Israelis have. But here's President Trump ordering close to 16 million people to evacuate Tehran. It sounds like the United States is quite involved, given that this order of evacuation is coming from Donald Trump himself. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.